Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm Samson Folk. You're listening to a podcast that I host. This one, co-hosted by the man, the namesake, Trevon. He is the tray from which pulling up happens. I'm not sure how to phrase this. How you doing, man? He pulls up.
I'm doing good. Why did I sound like Jack there? Doing
Oh, good. Yeah,
good.
not a bad podcast, man.
I think you're just high energy after a win, so I'm doing good because we haven't had many podcasts after a win, so it's good. It's good to actually talk about stuff and things that are actually successful.
Well, I was gonna say I'll let you because I know what you want to get into right away. But for podcast listeners, maybe we sound high energy. The people watching on video, they see our eyes right now. They know we're recording after the win against the New Orleans Pelicans. So just to give everybody a quick update, the Raptors are now 5-14. They just beat the worst team in the league, the New Orleans Pelicans. And let me tell you, they are the worst team in the league.
Dear
When
God.
when there's like a bunch of bad teams, sometimes you need bad teams to play each other so the hierarchy can really be bestowed upon everyone. Like, this team sucks. They stink. The
Mm-hmm.
Pelicans stink. The Raptors got their first road win. They're now 1-10 on the road, 5-14 overall. Scottie's back. The defense is like mega improved. The offense, we saw a good game just now, but I mean, you wanted to talk about something. I cut you off.
No, it's okay. To our lovely and loyal fans, thank you for coming out in droves and supporting me for the betrayal that I have faced over the last 3 months. You guys came out.
Uh,
You came out. Got in his email. Let him know that he needs to be a better friend. Have I seen him since this pod? No, but there's immense pressure now. So I'm feeling that I'm gonna get an invite soon. Him and
You
Josh.
can't do anything, man. You just said you had got a setback.
Who cares? I just want the invite. I just want to be able to decline.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm showing up to your house and I'm just going to order wings there and we're going to watch football.
All right.
Like, I don't know what day. What's the best day for football? Monday? Let's do a Monday.
Let's do a Monday.
Okay. Next Monday, this ass, your couch.
All
Okay,
right.
buddy? We're watching.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah. The email, some lovely viewers slash listeners heard Trey and I having laugh about the friendship thing and emailed me that I needed to be a better friend. Oh, well, when you're dealing with a basketball mind such as Trey, you really have to treat him with a certain amount of reverence. And we'll use this opportunity for you to victory lap. Jamison Battle, your sign off last week was you're like, I like Jamison Battle. And I said, and you were referencing stock rising, and I was like, I think the time to get in would have been preseason. Like, maybe it's a bit late. He just put up 24 points on 9 of 11 shooting in 22 minutes. Jamison Battle, the floor is yours, Trevon.
I just want to say that I watch a lot of industry. For anyone that doesn't know about industry, it's about the stock market. You need to know when's the right time to jump in right before the stock booms. And today it boomed. Like Jamison Battle, like he looks like someone that's going to be able to like be one of your end of the roster guys. And like for the Raptors, like in their two-way spots, they haven't generated like any wins out of there. So getting a guy that's playable and able to like step up in the roster is massive. And like might I add, like the trained eye, the stamp, the pull-up tray stamp of approval, when that's bestowed on a Raptor player, they know that they need to step up. They know that they need to perform for the kid. So
Bro, the
I,
breath of upper middle class, as you said, and may I add, unbelievable.
this is my
To
management voice.
Yeah, to your point, Jameson Battle putting up 24. And the reason why I said last week, like, the time to get in was probably preseason was because, hey, dummy, dummy, dummy. I didn't think he scored 24 in the upcoming. I'll be honest with you. But that prior to that, Jameson Battle, as far as like what he's given the Raptors, it's more than we've seen from two ways in years past. And
Yeah.
like the little bump of rebounding, the set shooting in particular has been really strong. He's like, he moves the ball quickly. He just helps out spacing. He actually, as a two-way player, has provided a ton to the Raptors. And that was true before this game. But then he comes out, and especially when the Raptors in the second quarter, when they were, I mean, we were watching that game. It was terrible. For half the game, it was terrible. And
Yeah.
then the Raptors ran away with it. Things turned around. It was great. But like the big winners of the first half for the Raptors were their defense as a whole, but also Ochai and Jamison Battle. It wasn't RJ, it wasn't Scottie, it wasn't Jakob, it wasn't the I guess usual suspects. It was, Ochai, the guy who's saving his career this season, and Jamison, the guy who's starting his career this season. Those wins, as you said, they haven't come rapidly for the Raptors lately. Is there anything else that stuck out to you about this game against the Pelicans? Like, it's the worst team in the league. What do you take away from it?
Man, like just first off, like on the Pelicans, like if you would have told anyone when they traded Anthony Davis that this would be like the outcome of the team that they had, they would say like this is the most insane outcome, like a 1% outcome. It's just absolutely insane how unlucky they've been. But like for the Raptors in general, I think it just goes to show like with like Ochai Agbaji, like how important he actually is to the team when like he's hitting shots, he's active on the glass, he's defending well. Like he did a tremendous job on DeJounte Murray today.
Yeah.
The Raptors are like devoid of shooting. And so like when guys like him and Batter are hitting shots and they shot at like an ungodly clip today, like the offense is actually flows and actually can get in the rhythm. And guys like RJ Barrett can get downhill. So I think I know we're gonna touch into this a bit later, but
12 of
what
15, Ochai and Jamison combined 4 from 3. 12 of 15.
I need a couple more games before I give them a nickname as a duo, but because like our Precious and Boucher one, it didn't last long enough.
You know, I was writing the Siakam piece for Caitlin's Patreon, and I was kind of
Mhm.
looking at and I was studying how his game has changed over the years because, for example, in his playoff series against the 76ers, he drove 19 times a game, which was third highest in the NBA. Now he drives less per game than Brandon Boston. And when I was looking at the stats, I saw that Brandon Boston drove that much a game, and I was like, how the hell is Brandon Boston playing enough minutes to drive this much? And Brandon Boston played 20 minutes Sunday. He had 4 points. He usually gets up some shots, but that kind of conveys to you like the Pelicans, Javonte Green, Brandon Boston, Eve Missy, DeJounte Murray, CJ McCollum, Jerome Robinson Earl, or Jeremiah Robinson Earl. Like, there's just CJ is out there. DeJounte Murray is out there who got traded for Dyson Daniels, who has been like the king of Helmer Rock, just insane on defense. Like, he's been a true lockdown. This Pelicans team, when you look at the decisions they've made, with you go back and you have hindsight or whatever you want to call
Mhm.
it, it's bad. It's
Awful.
so bad. Like, we've lamented some of the decisions that the Raptors have made. It's just not close to the Pelicans. Like, it's
Like
not remotely close.
and just like easy wins that you could have. You have the fourth pick. You trade down and try to go quasi and get as many players as possible. Darius Garland is right there. You could have paired Darius Garland and Zion Williamson, and you probably would have been good for 10 years. It's just like the
You know what's funny? There was November 28th, 2022. Our friend group gets together. We go downtown and watch a game where the Pelicans beat the ever-loving
oh
hell out of the Raptors. They absolutely shellacked them. And then we said, like, oh, is
yeah
maybe something not good here? Maybe something's bad. November 27th this year, your friend report. Here we are in different houses on the other side of the city from one another as the Raptors just beat the hell out of the Pelicans. I guess the big takeaway from this game is like the continued pace slowing with Scottie at the point of like as the lead initiator. Scottie's continued tremendous struggle on offense and
yeah
especially from the 3-point line. He was still a plus 33 in this game. His effect on the defense has been truly like it's been unbelievable. And you can watch the film room that Lewis and I did. If it's on the YouTube channel, if you want to go watch that and kind of see all the passive things he does, even outside of like I guess the really impressive stuff. But this game, outside of laughing at the Pelicans for doing bad things, but process wise, the big names on the Raptors, do you take anything away?
I think from Scotty, there obviously is like the struggle from the 3-point line. What I think from like a process standpoint, because even from last year, like he was fairly streaky as a 3-point shooter overall. Like it
He
it
had
ended
two
up
streaks. One
Yeah,
streak was really
pretty
great, and
good.
one streak was really bad.
And then he ended up shooting 34% from the field. So like defenses aren't really going to respect him, and he will have a streak where he's shooting fairly well. I think in terms of process, the Raptors are able to generate the most offense when they're able to get paint touches. Why RJ Barrett is so important. Is why in the Detroit game when he was getting into the lane, it opened up a lot for others as well. I think with him, the approach believe needs to change with one like probably having Davion on the floor more than I anticipated. Just like as a ball handler, he's able to get the offense moving fairly well. And like two, getting more catches lower in the post, like mid post, low block, and actually using his strength and using his ability to separate from guys to actually like draw fouls and score from that position. Because right now, like with the defense completely set and no one outside of like Grady Dick who has like gravity realistically, and he's not playing currently. He's sort of giving the defense much easier looks than I think he should be letting. And like the verse like the efficiency is going to come and go as the Raptors get better and have better players around him. His efficiency will go up. I'm not concerned about that, but the process of him getting into the paint, getting paint touches on the offensive end is like super important for his start and where he wants to go and what the Raptors want to do.
Yeah. I think he's 10 of 42 from downtown on the season now. He's also wearing goggles. He had a face injury.
Yeah.
He said the redness in his eye doesn't affect anything, but like there could be residual stuff here that's making it a little bit tougher. He did say like the goggles sometimes can affect his vision. In the game today, Tyrese Halliburton was wearing a mask and mid possession threw it away after he airballed. Is that theatrics? Is it real? Who knows? But another interesting thing is like when you look at Scottie, the amount of unassisted baskets he's getting right now is like 99th percentile, 99th percentile, 99th percentile. Everything he's doing is coming off, or the largely what he's doing is coming off of his own dribble, and he's not scoring off of cuts. He's not really scoring as a screener and
Yeah.
rolling. He's not scoring out of spot up situations. So it's like, well, what's happening? Is he not correctly putting himself in those situations as a cutter often enough? Is he not willing enough to like plant and roll as a screener? Or is he working with guys who don't create advantages? And I think like some guys have had trouble creating advantages for him, yes, but I think he's been pretty passive and he's actually
Yeah.
like more than usual kind of stepped out beyond the 3-point line and been like, okay, I'm here if we need to reset and I run the offense. I don't think he's not like James Harden. James Harden, I think, is the only guy who has ever gotten away with that truly. And like he almost got away with doing that and beat one of the great and lost to one of the greatest teams of all time after an 0 for 27 streak from downtown. Nobody else can kind of replicate that just immediate creation. And Scottie playing with that passivity and just willingness, that's not exactly healthy. And like if you said Scottie shot 7 of 23 in a game, you'd be like, that is not passive. And that isn't passive, but it's just like he can work himself into more advantageous positions a little bit more often. But again, like this is just a recap. It's still early back from his injury.
Yeah.
He's getting, and this was always the weakest part of his game, was like this raw creation from a
Mm-hmm.
standstill with a dribble. This is the stuff he always had to catch up on. He's been dynamite playing off of players all the time. He's been dynamite at all this kind of stuff. What have you made of his? It's not like partner in crime because RJ doesn't exist on the same like star plane as Scottie does, but RJ, last time we talked, I guess a week ago, he's had two really strong games and one really bad game. After we changed the hierarchy of the Raptors offense, what have you made about the RJ of it all?
um, he's performed exactly how we thought he would. With the added like presence that Scottie adds, he's able to play in the role that he was successful in all of last year. That's coming off of cuts. That's being able to come off of actions where he's coming downhill, where the advantage is already created through the action, and he's able to then either go with his left, create counters through there, and then also play make out of those positions. Like he's done that really well. And even with the shooting, the shooting is coming from more spot up attempts now than it was previously. They're not asking him to create off the dribble to make jump shots anymore. And so now he's playing within the role that he's done really well in. He can score at in bunches in, And with Scottie not necessarily getting the rim pressure that you want, RJ's adding that factor in a way that he probably wasn't when the entire defense was looking at him, and that's how you get Jamison Battle, Ochai Abaji getting all these open threes
Yep.
because you have a guy that the defense has to slide towards over. So I think with those guys like playing together, they both add they both add skills and attributes that the other don't have, and with RJ particularly you can see him and slot him in within this role and assume that his efficiency is going to go up similar to the levels that it was last year.
Yeah. And also like you wonder in these games, like is Jakob with Davion, you wonder it, with RJ you wonder like is Jakob just an assist machine with that early push shot? Is
Yeah.
it do you even have to create an advantage if you can just like toss the ball to Jakob and get an assist because he just makes everything from 10 feet? Like, are you creating good looks? And Jakob scores 2 points in this game, goes 1 for 4, and RJ still finds his way to 11 assists. And as you mentioned, part of that 11 assists is because, Ochai and Jamison, they combined for 12 of 15 from
Yeah.
three. That's not going to happen every time. But RJ is very deep in the paint. He's taking really heavy steps in there. He's moving the defense a bunch. And is it better if Scottie is able to emulate that in the future and like take those possessions from RJ? Probably. Like
Yeah.
having the main star do more is always really great, especially from like a raw creation type thing. But RJ for now, as you said, there's a compliment there that he's bringing that like ferocity on the drive that Scottie and that nimble aspect to his drives that Scottie doesn't necessarily have currently, and that Scottie has to work on counters and handle to
Yeah.
get into those types of possessions. I'm really interested to see how this all shapes up. I guess like 22, 8 and 11, 15 shots. He was 3 of 7 from the line. He was 3 of 7 from downtown. One of those things is good. One of those things is bad. But I still feel, and of course we wouldn't have said that if we didn't feel it. But
Yeah.
a week later, do I still believe heavily in the Raptors giving RJ like more pick and roll possessions this season? Yes, because that's basically the crux of what we had a conversation about. It's like, well, should RJ get some of those possessions that IQ and Scottie have? Yeah, because he just creates a whole like bunch of possessions for other guys, even if it's not necessarily him scoring himself. Just like give a guy possession. You look at his true shooting, maybe it's not that great. You look at the points possession in the when he uses the play, it's fantastic. You want to choose one of those things. You want to choose the big gobs of, I guess, point scoring. But yeah,
Yeah. For like from a process standpoint, I think question I'd ask you is obviously like with Scotty having the ball a lot more, they've gone away from like the RJ Yaka pick and roll, and that was super successful. Do you think in terms of like process is that beneficial because the offense has been significantly slower, and also just with RJ's added like motion off of hold on, let me rephrase this. Let me restart. The Raptors have gone away from the pick and roll. Like with RJ doing most of his work now, like off the ball. Do you think there's space for him to get some of those pick and roll possessions from like a second side action, like how we discussed last week, or do you think the offense and the pace is more so just an outcome of Scotty having the ball?
so I think Scotty definitely does. He makes the team go quicker in transition. Like he allows that fast break, go, go, go aspect. But he does slow things down in the half court. And like he grew up in a slow half court. Like his however many first years in the game were
Yeah,
with like Fred and Pascal and OG and like these slow, methodical half court teams that didn't want to turn the ball over. And Scotty is kind of like adjusting to how he developed in the first couple of years to who he really is as a player, which is a run and gun guy. And we're seeing those two things kind of battle right now. As far as like RJ's pick and roll possessions, he's still getting some like as the primary, whether that's with Scotty on the floor or not. Like that's the big change. And I think, it's not immediately in these games, but by the middle of the game, usually if Scotty is really having a whale of a game, he's creating super well. They don't really go to the Scotty or to the RJ pick and roll. In this game, we just saw when the offense wasn't going well and Scotty's out there, they still went to the RJ pick and roll, not even second side, but as a primary because they're like, we need a couple paint touches. We need to see what
yeah,
this looks like. We want to get side top side action after RJ gets deep and gets paint touches. I think there's always room for a guy who creates gobs of points out of the pick and roll. Uh, there's going to be some second side stuff. They have to figure that out though, because as
Hmm.
I said, like Scottie, for whatever reason, he hasn't played well off ball like at all since he's returned. It's been like he's been extremely passive. He hasn't cut a lot. He hasn't been like in the gaps. He hasn't been, really trying to affect the game in that way. Again, he had a major injury too in the past year, right? He's getting
Yeah.
back into the swing of things. That probably comes around as we saw him be a very effective off ball player before. But for now, like it's in fits and starts. The good news is that the defense has been so strong. And I do really want to focus on like the Scottie defense thing. So I'll start with you there and you let me know like what you've been seeing that you enjoy so much.
I think with like first off, all world on defense, like this has been as advertised. I think like seeing Scotty play defensively shows like the lack of athleticism we had on the floor like previously. There just wasn't many guys that can blow up actions like the Cleveland game. Um, Scotty's able to switch on to Darius Garland, defend him at the point of attack, funnel him into Yakapurta, and then block the ball. There's the Minnesota game where he's able to stonewall Julius Randle. Nikhil Alexander Walker comes over, and then he blows up that play, and then that leads to transition and extra and easier possessions overall. Like him defensively, like he's able to roam around the court and blow up actions in ways that the Raptors probably had to play perfect possessions just based on the personnel that they had previously. And now they have a guy that can sort of cheat and also be able to help on the other side of the court and work as a sweeper, work as a weak side defender. And it makes stuff for like Jakob, who's able to hold his ground and make things a lot easier, like that possession against the Cavs. And guys like Grady, who's able to switch off and then go on to someone who's less scary. Previously, that was him defending someone that's probably one of the primaries on their team, and that made it extremely hard.
Yeah. It's a great point that he's like I love what you said that they don't have to be perfect to get these kind of stops anymore because the Raptors with their defenders, that was kind of the ask is like,
Yeah,
you guys got to be on a string. You got to close the gaps at the right time. You got to X out at the right time. It's got to be clean all the way through. And with Scottie, he's able to take up so much space and do it without fouling. He's able to do it with driving turnovers. He's able to push and he's able to, you know, even when he's behind the play, he's in it. And there was a weird play tonight where, like, again, I don't think Scottie should be picking up three-quarter court.
yeah,
Like, he immediately got toasted by, like, again, Scottie's a tremendous defender, but he got toasted by Elfrid Payton in the open court. He was a full step, almost 2 steps behind him. Payton is coming down the lane, wide open layup, and Scottie's yelling, like, don't help to Mobo. And Payton lays it in. And so you wonder, like, does Scottie rate his own recovering speed so much that he sees like a possible chase down block there? He and Mobo seemed a little bit confused about it afterwards. And whether or not he got the block, which he didn't, Scottie believes he's in those plays.
yeah,
And truth be told, like the Garland point you brought up, like Scottie is in a lot of plays that it might not seem like he is. And that surprises defenders a lot too. So while this one against Peyton didn't go perfectly, in fact, it went poorly, it belays that information that he knows he's in stuff. And Ochai isn't in stuff like that. RJ definitely isn't in stuff like that. Like all of their wing defenders just aren't going to be able to affect change that way. And Scottie is just marauding around the court, constantly affecting change. And you can see it in every single game they've played since he returned. Like Minnesota, the defense was much better. Cleveland, the defense was much better.
yeah,
Detroit, the defense was much better. This past game, the defense is much better. Like, what do? You just like, hey, they're a much better defense with their star, who is the best defender. Like, what is it? 102 points against the Pistons. What was it against Cleveland? 122, but that's one of the best offenses in the
yeah,
league. And then also 105 against the Timberwolves. How much did the Pelicans have tonight? Hardly any. Like the
yeah. I was
Raptors,
gonna say they're under 100.
their defense, yeah, the Pelicans had 93. The Raptors defense probably from this game is going to jump into the top 2/3. Like, if I had to guess.
Yeah,
It's been swinging rapidly. And it correlates basically with like Scottie Barnes is on the team.
I don't want to use like the Pelicans obviously as like our litmus test, but
Yeah.
like even like with DeJounte Murray, like Ochai is a lot more effective defensively because of the backline defense that you have
Yes.
now.
Yes.
Um, like the Ivy play, I don't care what anyone says. Bad shots. I'm gonna take that shot 9 out of 10 times. But um, you're able to cheat, be more aggressive because you know somebody's going to be on the back line to be able to sweep and clean up those plays. Like while like Jakob is sort of like a wall and offers that rim protection, guys were still able to get in the lane, hit a push shot, move him off of the spot just because he doesn't have the requisite like quickness. But Scottie does, and he causes chaos all over the court. So like DeJounte's struggling like is like a modicum of like his presence defensively, and hopefully if you add on um quickly Grady, those guys become more tenable together because you have backline defense as good as like Jakob and Scotty.
Yeah. It was that play in the film room where Grady helped from the strong side corner off of Julius Randle and then recovered out to Julius Randle. And the Raptors, Scottie cheated from the weak side corner to go stand in the lane in front of Randle. And that meant that like Jaden McDaniels was wide open in the opposite corner, but it was a short clock situation. And Scottie knows that like you have to throw it over both Scottie and Jakob. The ball has to be high. Scottie can recover back. Like he knows the quickness to patrol the baseline like that. And his presence in the lane meant that Randall doesn't get to like body the hell out of Grady and come roaring down the lane. There's nobody else on the roster who can make that play, even though the play was nothing. Randall just ended up taking the shot. It was Scottie's presence that moved him on in the order of operations. Like, nope, I'm not going to drive headlong into Scottie Barnes and
Yeah.
Jakob Poeltl. That's silly. Headlong into Ochai Agbaji and Jakob Poeltl maybe is a different calculus, right? And that's like the whole Scottie Barnes of it all. Jamamba, as you like to call him, Ja'Kobe Walter started an NBA game tonight for listeners last night. He put up the Jonas Valanciunas in his first NBA start, a double-double at 180 pounds. What have you made of Ja'Kobe Walter, who hit the first shot of the game, a three from,
Mm.
I think, RJ Barrett, and then like, I mean, I'll read the stat line because it's a fun little stat line, and I think he played within himself. He didn't get too big. I guess he finished with 14 and 11. Oh yeah,
Ooh.
14 and 11, right. And 5 and 2 on 6 of 14 shooting. You know,
I'll take
and
it.
he was 2 of 10 from 3. And guess who tweeted go put up 10 threes before the game? Me. And he was a plus 31. Jacoby like is supposed to be the hooper. You know, Lewis said
Yeah.
this on the live stream. He was like, he's a hooper prospect. He's supposed to be the shot maker. I mean, we talked about his game before he got drafted. You go look at the tape, you're like, this guy has an insane idea of what a good shot is.
Yeah.
It's any shot that he sees. And he's coming in as like a glue guy doing a whole bunch of the in-between stuff. What do you thought about Jacoby, Jamamba, as you like to call him?
He
Why Jamamba? Isn't it beating a dead horse a little bit?
I don't know. You just know I'm like weird like that. Like for anyone that doesn't know, like like an NBA player, I'll just like call them by their middle name, and everyone knows like what I'm referring to.
That's true. For everybody listening, I have not heard Trey call his favorite player by his name in years. If we're talking about LeBron James, he'll be like the father of 3. Like that's who this guy is. He's just not normal. So yeah, go ahead, Jamamba.
Yeah, so
You are
that's
a weird guy. Yeah.
chill guy, chill guy. All right. But like Jacoby, he's doing all of the things that I don't want to compare him. Isn't a 1-to-1 to obviously like Grady Dick, but like he's finding ways to like have positive impact even if his shot isn't falling. Like him attacking the glass, creating extra possessions. He actually, from like a closeout perspective, probably attacking closeouts like better than a lot of players on the team currently. Even if his shot isn't falling, he's able to. He had a nice lay down to Jakob on the
Yep.
drive that he had towards I think third quarter, I believe. Defensively, still pesky. Although like CJ McCollum caught him a few times, just he's one of the better creators in the NBA. The there's activity there, and with activity, you have guys like we referred on the back end that can help with things. You see the effort, you see that he's trying, and I'm a big believer in his shot. He shot the ball very well in high school. I think that's going to translate within the NBA, and you can see in the movements that he's doing. It's a lot of the things that the Raptors want. A guy that can relocate, a guy that can run off of pin downs and do all of those things that create rotations, create chaos in like offensively. So like he's doing all of the hard things that you'd want your first round pick to do and excelling at things. What's going to make him a good NBA player is his shot. I believe in that part, and that will come along as well. So like I think this is like a a 10 out of 10 for me. Like I couldn't expect more.
Yeah, I think the point you make is a good one, that he's completely bought into the Raptors ethos. The
Yeah,
Raptors as a team this year have not shot the ball well, but they've sprinted everywhere. They've been the second most well-traveled team this year as far as like miles traveled on the court. They are like top 5 in deflections, they're top 10 in charges. They they run all the time. They're one of the highest volume transition teams. They rebound so many of their own misses, number 1 in the league actually, and they participate in tagging up, which is, when the other, because there's so many 3-pointer shot nowadays that like long rebounds are quite often, that when you are the offensive player, instead of getting back on defense, what you do is you go and meet the box out from the other guy. Every player, all 5, go and do this. And if it's a long rebound, you can kind of push them in and go collect. But also, if they get the rebound, everybody has a matchup in transition. And that's why the Raptors are the number 1 defense in transition against live rebounds right now. And Ja'Kobe is a guy who hustles, who deflects, who runs everywhere, who has been like a plus rebounding the ball, and he's brought it in that regard. He's just completely bought into what the Raptors are doing, and he has talent that exists outside of the Raptors system. That's why he got drafted, but he's already, made himself into the type of player that the Raptors are looking for as far as like what you do when you're not making shots. That's good. That's impressive to me. Like, as you said, he's not a similar player to Grady at all. But
yeah,
Grady would have loved to be putting up 14 and 11 and 5 and 2 on November 27th of last year, because he was in a string of not playing basketball for the Raptors. Like he just wasn't. He played like 5 games over the course of like 2.5 months with the
yeah,
Raptors, and was doing 905 stuff and struggling there. Like Ja'Kobe, and I think Grady is the better prospect. Like
yeah.
players, there's ceiling is different than what you do immediately, but Ja'Kobe is like way ahead of where Grady was last year at this time. Like it's not
That's
close.
what that's what's so impressive of it. Like he
Yep.
didn't struggle with the physicality. That was one of the things that Grady really struggled with early on, and he was able to rebound. He hustled like fairly well, and he wasn't getting moved off of his spot defensively. Like when we did our video on him, that was one of the key factors, and probably why he slid a bit further. The activity has always been there, but he doesn't create the necessary like resistance. But today he was. So I'm like pretty. I'm pretty optimistic. I don't like think when the Raptors are healthy, like he's a for sure roster spot. I would like him to just get creation like possessions on the 905, but he's a good tale to show that what the Raptors are trying to do, the people are buying into it. It's effective, and he has like the requisite skill to like operate in that way. So like it from a fit perspective, it looks like he's accomplishing what they want to do.
He will be a really great litmus test, I think, for what the Raptors see this season as being. You know, because
Yeah,
last year, like as we said, Grady wasn't playing. OG Anunoby was on that team. Pascal Siakam was on that team. They wanted to win games, and there just wasn't room for Grady. Grady couldn't get to 14 and 11 and 2. They would not let him touch the floor for 14 minutes or 11 minutes or 2.
yeah.
It's just, whereas like Ja'Kobe, they're like, come play a lot of minutes and we'll see how it goes. And he just gets to try. How much the Raptors give him that opportunity to try over the course of the season really, I think, shows their intention for this year. Because if you ask RJ and Scottie and IQ and Jakob, these guys, if they get an opportunity now, 5 and 14, they were what, 2 and 11, 2 and 12. They're looking at the talent, the paid talent that they have on the roster, like, do we get an opportunity to like make the playoffs? Do we
Yeah.
get an opportunity to like put the pedal to the metal? And it's not a guarantee that they will. Like maybe they just won't be good enough and they started in a big hole. But if they're a team like if they're winning games with Scottie in the lineup and Scottie's in the lineup for the rest of the year, then they're gonna be in it. And is there anything moving the other way? Like if Jacoby's not a winning player, because most 19, 20-year-olds aren't who get
Yeah.
drafted, rookies don't win you minutes usually. Do they say like, well, that's nice that you guys are winning your minutes, but we have some plans about development and losing minutes elsewhere? Like that is where I think the contrasting, ideals of where this team is meant to go. Jacoby is kind of in the middle of that to some
Yeah.
degree.
Because like the Raptors, like they because of injuries, they haven't had this issue. But like when everyone, and that's a diff at this
Yes,
point. To
yes.
be honest, there is a guard like there is a logjam of the guard spot just with all the guys that they have, and you have a guy like Bruce Brown. You need to play him, whether that's he's getting paid $23 million, whether that's to trade him or just to provide positive value, like defensively. Davion's played well enough to be within a position to earn minutes, and Emmanuel quickly you paid him to be a starting guard. So like they're in a position where it's all those guys need to play. So I'm unsure if Jacoby is going to get minutes like until like post deadline, but that's only the if they ever get healthy.
And that's so interesting because Jacoby played 27 tonight. Like Davion played 15.
Yeah,
And I mean, Ochai is going to be in the guard rotation at times.
yeah,
RJ in some lineups is in the guard rotation. Grady is in the guard rotation. IQ is in the guard rotation. Bruce Brown is in the guard rotation. I mean, Jamal Shed played 15 tonight. And again, as you said, Emmanuel, he's not just like one of the names there who will play. He's going to play like 32 minutes a night.
hmm
It's just it evaporates so much of the opportunity, and that means that you have to start choosing not between IQ because he's still developing for these guys, right? Like he still has to get minutes. He's paid like as if he gets a chance to be a star. That's the contract he has to try. And RJ is the same. Like where does the opportunity go? And it's you have to decide between like a guy who's making $23 million a year or your rookie.
yeah,
And that is a very bold, clear signal. Whichever side of the aisle it lands on, I think is very bold, clear signal. We're agreed, yeah,
yeah. I think the record kind of puts him in a position where it's an easier decision though.
yeah. I mean, so now 5-14, they're not the worst team in the league. Let's go look at the standings quick. I don't know if all the games are done. 5-14, they are, I guess, 4 or 3.5 games, 2.5 games out of a play-in spot. That's it.
Jesus.
Oh my days,
Oh, the
man.
East is terrible.
Like the Hornets, everybody's been like, "Oh, Melo, so awesome. This is great." They're 6-12, man.
It's a ball. It's the greatest 6-12 season of all time. I'll tell you that.
I mean, yeah, like the Hornets and the Raptors are two teams that are just having really fun bad seasons.
Yeah.
And I mean, the Nets are 8-10. They're better than I thought they'd be.
Yeah.
What is Dennis Schroeder's stat line actually? I kind of want to look at Dennis's stat line. Is he still scoring 21 points per game or whatever? Because he's 18-6,
Yeah. Cam Johnson's playing
45,
well too.
41, 86 splits. Ah, man. It's the East is crazy. The East is a crazy conference. The Pacers are 9-10, they're 7th.
Yeah,
This
I
is
guess
a
they're
what
not
is
out
the
of it.
West? The West, the 10th seed is 10-9. That's the Spurs. They've turned it around, by the way, too. Man,
Yeah.
that really is something. There's when was the East? Has it been in our lifetime that the East like wholesale is better than the West? Has that happened?
I don't think that's ever happened. There's been like times where like you could say like the top end of the East has been better,
Yeah,
but I don't think from a depth perspective the West has ever been the second best conference.
the
At least in
top end.
Ireland.
Yeah, the top end of the East and when the Raptors won was stronger than the top end
Yeah.
of the West. Like the Trailblazers, the Rockets. Like it just wasn't at the same level, but there was like the Raptors, Bucks, 76ers. They were so strong at that point in
Mhm.
time. Man, I guess what do you think is the reason for that? Is it just because like the Western teams are typically warmer, so players want to play there more often, so like talent goes there?
I would think, yeah, player movement, obviously. Like you have someone like LeBron James moving to Los Angeles. I don't know. Also, like some of the younger franchises are in the East. So that makes sense to some degree. Like the
Who
Hornets are,
who who's young?
I guess,
Charlotte,
Charlotte,
Toronto,
Toronto. No, Memphis is in the West, which is young.
Minnesota is young, and they're in the
They're good.
West.
They're good too. It's like,
Yeah, I think it's just because it's warmer.
yeah,
You
I
know?
make yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, like most people would rather play in Los Angeles than a cold city. That's
Yeah,
fair.
like think of like the West Coast teams have been so good for so long. Like Golden State has been in it for a long time. The LA teams have been like as much as the Clippers get made fun of, they've been in it for a
Yeah,
long time. The Lakers, once they got LeBron, were in it. You
yeah.
know, geez, you're
Phoenix.
just in it.
Yeah,
Phoenix has been good for a minute now. Yeah, man. I feel like it's and even the East Coast, like Orlando is not like they're finally back in it, but they're not that good. I mean, New Orleans, we've talked about the tire fire that they've been. I guess like Miami is kind of always in it, but they
yeah,
are in kind of like a schmucky way. Like you're just like, damn, you again? Like, how
yeah.
did you
Like they're
even
just
get
so
here?
pesky.
Yeah. How did you get here? Yeah. They just show up. Yeah. Damn. I think it's the weather. That's my best guess.
That makes sense.
Hmm. Unless like Eastern Seaboard teams are just cursed with like, you know, there's kind of like that's New York, Philly, everybody who's over here, they have like this hard nosed ideal about themselves. Haven't you noticed that?
Yeah, but just in general, the weird thing about basketball is
Boston.
like relative to like other sports, like people aren't necessarily like chasing like a big market or like a warm weather city. Like I know like the Dodgers, obviously they just got Blake Snow, but like overall, like a football player would go to Kansas City. No, like it would be a no brainer.
I guess it's kind of like it's a different season you play in. Like in
Yeah,
football, you get a month and a half, almost 2 month head start on the weather
true.
before winter. Baseball, I mean, like you can play baseball in Toronto and you're like,
Yeah,
wow, this is
Toronto,
great.
no
Yeah,
issue.
so baseball doesn't matter because everything is summer. But in football, I think you start like a little bit earlier, and you might not even be playing the back end of January. When's the regular season end in football?
Yeah, December. Last week of December, first week of January. So yeah, you actually could avoid winter the entire time.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think it's the weather. I'm like there's a million people listening to this who are just shouting through cupped hands like, "Yes, obviously, move on." But yeah, that is interesting. Is there anything else we're missing from these Raptors? Um, go ahead.
The one thing we have missed, for the first time we saw some Nick Nursian in
Oh,
in Darko. We
oh yeah, Ochai.
that
Yeah.
was we've harped on it. That was like one of probably our biggest gripes, like with the Nick Nurse reign. Is just like anytime Gary Trent Jr. breathed, this man had to mention he was the worst player in the NBA. It was just felt like there were certain players where like he just couldn't win with, and like with Ochai, he was asked the question, but like it was very direct, very hard nosed. So I want to know like what are your thoughts on that?
On Darko being like very critical of Ochai.
Yeah,
I was pretty surprised. Although it was fairly direct. Like the quote we got from Darko that people were like, "Whoa." That was a quote we got after every single game from Nick Nurse. Like genuinely. He's like, "No, like, that's just not acceptable, the rebounding for his size." Like for Nick Nurse that comes out every single press conference. He does not care. And like to your point, like Nick Nurse, it's not just what he said in the media either. It's behind closed doors. Like this is a guy who is like will be an asshole like 100%. There will be a book written at some point in time about like or whatever the equivalent of the Jeff Teague podcast is in 15 years. We'll have a rotating cast of players who played for Nick Nurse who are going to tell like just incredible stories that you're like, what the hell, really? It's a thing. And so Darko, like taking from the page of being like, yeah, well, I just don't think he's very good at basketball. Like, it's my favorite one actually is like when he would delineate when players got grouped. Like you could just let it slide, but Nick always had this thing where if you asked him about like a couple players, you're like, yeah, and these guys are kind of doing well, he would be like, well, no, I don't think this guy's doing well. Like he would remove them. He'd be like, no, I don't like undue credit going around. Let me make sure. So, I mean, Darko, that's the thing too, because we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Like, is Darko perceived as soft? The Raptors, they do all the hard work stuff.
Yeah.
Like they run a ton. They rebound their own misses. They get a lot of deflections. They full court press. Like they take charges. They do a lot of the like hard stuff that we've seen teams in the past, and like typically teams they move away from that when the coach is losing the room.
Yeah.
But like Darko has the room. He has it big time actually. And now with Scottie back, like the defense is getting better. I wonder if the Raptors, like once the personnel is there, I wonder if, because the team makes the coach always,
100%.
and the perception of the coach more than anything, the team makes the perception of the coach. I wonder if there's room for Darko to like come back around to not be seen as soft, because I don't think he's soft, but obviously that is the perception, you know?
Yeah, I think like from like the outside, like looking and like perceive pretty well. Like, although we're losing like every single game, you'll hear James Harden, for example, go, This team is better than the record shows. They're best." Just like a presence of like them being annoyed just because the Raptors play so hard. So like it's what all you can really ask for a team that's rebuilding and like putting guys in positions that probably wouldn't play if they were trying to like make the playoffs.
At some point you have to admit, like, yeah, I'm sure there's a coach or a few coaches who could get more out of the team in certain areas. Like,
Yeah.
obviously there is, but also you have to ask yourself, like, can you just coach Ochai into a win against LeBron James? And then sit with yourself. Like, why am I asking this question? Is this a real question to ask? Like, yes, Ochai can be the top scorer along with Jamison Battle against the Pelicans, but like, what amount of coaching makes this team like not 5-14? I wonder. Like, as you said, Jaden Ivey last year he said that the world was going to end. By the way, do you remember that? He said the rapture was coming. Little did we know it was going to be his game winner.
He was
But
just
like,
standing out.
yeah, he was just like, he had a good game. Then he got up there and he got a blank face. He's like, just so you know, like, get right with God. I was like, yo, what the hell is going on here, man? This is ominous foreboding. But anyway, like Ochai forces him baseline. He gets a bump and makes this crazy like push shot. That shot is there every possession of every single game. Like for every player. It's like, oh, do you want to take the fading 14-foot push shot? Yeah.
I felt
what is
like
the
Paul
coaching?
George. I was like, that's a bad shot. I don't care.
I wasn't even like mad about it. I was like, damn, if you make that shot, fine. But like, what is the coaching? It's like, we needed to double Jaden Ivey. Really? You have to double Jaden Ivey?
Yeah. Ochai defended him well. Like,
You don't have to double Jaden Ivey. Sometimes shots go in, you know? Yeah. What I'm excited for is when this team eventually turns the corner, and then we can actually like sink our teeth into like, is this guy good on a good team? Is Darko a good coach on a good team? Like, I'm excited for that. Is what my work is built out of, man. Is just like unearthing what's happening. But now it's just like, well, there's a bunch of stuff happening. Ochai Agbaji and Jamison Battle were great, and they won an NBA game. That doesn't happen often. That's cool. But like, how do you dig into that so deep? You don't really, I don't think. Anyway, yeah. Darko said Ochai needs to rebound more, and then he made every shot. Great adjustment. Really happy with that adjustment. Actually, my favorite thing about that is that we got an all caps word in an S tweet about it, and it made no sense to me. And like, And I know S listens to the podcast, so and like I'll talk. I might, I'll ask, but like he's like, it seems like Ochai and put all caps heard. I wondered if there's a joke there. Am I missing a joke there?
No, that's just him. I like when I see his tweets, I hear his voice too. Like it
You
seems
heard him
like
yell,
Ochai heard.
but that's all the same volume. That was all caps.
Just got off
Oh,
oh, Jesus Christ.
Anyway, S tweet analysis is not a necessary function of the show. Anything you want to say before we get out of here, Trey?
I don't want to ruin my hot streak after last week. So I'm just happy to see a win. I'm happy that I've guilted you to being my friend again. So I'm looking forward to next week.
Wow. Well, look forward to Monday.
Okay.
My ass, your couch. What is the Monday night game, by the way? What do I have to look forward to?
Let's see.
Monday Night Football. Okay. Oh, it's just giving me the history of Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
I don't want to know the history of Monday Night Football. It's games on Monday night. Like, obviously, this is, Google is changing. Google is
Yeah, it
getting
doesn't
like
give you
all this
exact
AI
features.
stuff. It doesn't show you what you want. Like your Google foo has to be so much better to get the answers you're looking for. And I'm trying to take up time as you search for this. And do you know who's playing on Monday?
It's a terrible game. Broncos at Browns.
Broncos, let's ride. Who's the quarterback for the Broncos now? Wait, and
Both.
Rams? I like Matt Stafford.
No, Broncos and Browns.
Oh, Browns. Oh,
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
Jameis Winston. Let's go. I'm gonna eat a W.
He is the funniest athlete on the planet.
He's an insane person. Yeah.
Like last week, you know how like there's like their players are trying to draw people offside. Like he randomly yelled, "Damn, someone come offside!" and then just called the timeouts.
Oh, that's great. I love when athletes kind of like they remove the veil and they're like, you know what, I'm gonna be a goofball. When Patrick Beverly grabbed that cameraman's camera and showed it to a ref, I was like, this is the best thing I've seen maybe ever.
One of the funniest days on NBA.
Wow. All right. That feels like a podcast.
Yes.
You feel similar, I'm sure?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. All right. Stay tuned. Trey and I. Oh, what else? Oh,
gee. Ass, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Make sure to like and subscribe. Lord, I'm so bad at this. I'm so bad at this, man. Oh, anyway, yeah, make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel, and you obviously support the channel because you're 54 minutes in and you've listened to the plug. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. From myself and Trevon, we love you. We appreciate you. And whether you got into this in the morning or at night, have a blessed day and goodbye.